KPV is the king of peptides, but it certainly is going to take over as more and more people understand and experience its effects. The real power with KPV isn't replacing other anti-inflammatories. It's in making other treatments finally work. The king of peptides, the end-all be-all, better than BPC 157? More significant and impactful than GLP-1s? Perhaps something that is not being talked about enough, or maybe something that the people on the inside know is the best, most effective, most beneficial, and most game-changing for us. But does it come with a caveat? That's what we're here to discuss today. I'm Dylan Gemelli. I am your resident expert that's here to shed light upon the facts. No fluff, no BS, telling you what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear. So let's dig into KPV today. I have never made it a secret that I am the biggest fan on the planet of KPV, and I feel that it is the most effective and will be known as the king of peptides. I want to talk to you, though, in detail about why, what it does, how it works, and why I see such a bright future for it. So let's talk about inflammation. Now, if you've ever dealt with chronic inflammation, then you already know the struggle. I'm talking about constant swelling, pain, fatigue. Sometimes we don't even know the cause. And treatments that either don't work or cause new problems, which I'm going to get into here shortly with conventional medicine. And that's a whole other story. But what we are told is conventional, to me, is non-conventional. I'm going to make a separate video on that. We could go on all day if I start rolling on that. But let's talk about KPV because it is a simple but extremely, extremely powerful and effective peptide. It's going to change the whole way that clinicians diagnose and just see inflammation in the future. I can tell you that I feel so strongly about that. Look, it's so simple. Like I said, it's 3 aminos. That's it. Lysine, proline, and valine. And I'm sure that most of you have heard of them, but let's talk about how well they work together. They can switch off inflammation right at its source without shutting down your immune system's natural ability to fight infections. So what I want to get into here is the problem with traditional anti-inflammatories, because most work by blocking enzymes or receptors that the body is using for essential functions, not just inflammation. So let's look at COX enzymes. They create inflammatory compounds, but they also protect your stomach lining, and then immune cells drive autoimmune conditions, but they're also your first line of defense against cancer and infection. So look at it this way. When you suppress inflammation broadly, you risk damaging the systems your body is depending on. It's like turning off your car's engine just because the radio is too loud. So how is KPV different? KPV works through something called melanocortin receptors. This is the calm down switches that are built directly into your inflammatory cells. So instead of killing these cells or blocking their enzymes, KPV is just telling them to relax and to rebalance. So think of it like this. You have a skilled mediator that kind of steps into an argument. Everybody walks away calmer, but still capable of doing their job. Your immune system stays intact, your inflammatory cells still function, and they're not just in overdrive anymore. What does this mean if you're at the doctor or at a clinic? Practitioners are using KPV now for a wide variety of problems where inflammation is the root core cause. So what are we looking at? IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, where steroids aren't working or can't be used long-term, skin conditions like psoriasis or eczema without the thinning or rebound from topical steroids, and then autoimmune flares, where you need control without full immune suppression, and then we've got post-surgical recovery when excessive inflammation is slowing down your healing. I also want to talk to you about the gut and skin-brain connection. So one of the most interesting things that I can tell you about KPV is how well it works for patients whose inflammation is going through multiple systems. I'm talking gut, skin, brain, and beyond. So if you think about the person that has IBS, eczema, and anxiety, these seem completely unrelated, but they may all stem from an underlying inflammatory state. KPV is not chasing each symptom separately. What it's doing is it's targeting the shared inflammatory trigger, and that helps get you back in balance throughout your body. Years of drinking coffee, and I never knew that most contained mold, toxins, and other harmful additives until I spoke to Dave Asprey about Danger Coffee. Now, coffee is way more to me than a way to perk up or get a quick jolt of energy. For me, it's an experience where I slow down to appreciate the aroma, the flavor, and the texture, and it really locks me into my day and allows me to keep sharp and focused. I spent so many years drinking low grade coffee and I was feeling down and tired and sluggish. Well, come to find out, 90% of coffee contains mold and toxins, and this was causing me to crash out and feel fatigued. But Danger Coffee, they go above and beyond with rigorous testing. They have no toxins and none of the dreaded crashing. And beyond that, over 50 trace minerals and electrolytes, along with being SCA certified. So if you want a clean coffee that's single origined, designed with your health in mind, and tastes phenomenal, then Danger Coffee is your answer. Use my link in the description and code Dylan. That's DYLAN to save 10% off today with Danger Coffee. So I want to look at something else here. We all know patients whose charts look off the wall insane. Fibromyalgia, IBS, migraines, depression, chronic fatigue. It's an endless slew of problems. What if these weren't all separate problems, but what if it was one inflammatory problem causing all of these issues? KPV may very well be the first therapy that can address this systemic inflammation safely and effectively without creating new complications. Let me tell you this. The real power with KPV isn't replacing other anti-inflammatories. It's in making other treatments finally work. Once the inflammatory noise quiets down, everything else gets better. Probiotics actually take hold. Physical therapy produces results. Even medications can work at lower and safer doses. KPV is helping to create the biological calm that your body needs to heal. How does KPV differ from other peptides that are studied for gut health? So there's other peptides that I've mentioned that are currently being investigated for gastrointestinal health, but their mechanisms differ. BPC 157, for example, it's primarily been studied for its role in tissue repair and angiogenesis. Then we've got thymosin beta 4, and that's involved in cell migration and the wound healing processes. KPV appears to function differently. So rather than stimulating tissue repair directly, it seems to modulate inflammatory signaling pathways that contribute to tissue damage. This distinction suggests that KPV may actually act as a precision anti-inflammatory regulator within the gut environment. Here's the catch. Like I said earlier, there's no human studies that have actually been conducted. Now, that's on the surface. That's not to say that there's not years of actual observance like that I've had and so many others have had all over the world on patients that have been using it, personal experience, etc. But there's no cited human studies out there, which of course is going to cause a red flag for many people. And, in fairness, studies can be easily manipulated one way or another. That goes without saying. So I understand always the need and want and desire for long-term studies, and I back that. But I also am a bigger proponent and a bigger fan for being in the trenches, seeing it work on everyday people, and getting real-time, real-life results without any skewing or control groups or throwing certain situations and scenarios to make things come out a certain way. So while on paper, there may not be published journals and articles and all of these pieces that we want studies long-term, I and so many others around the world have seen the long-term benefits of use, and that's where we get a lot of these informations. Now, I want to talk to you about working with a potent compound like a peptide. Precision is everything. And so when we talk about dosing and getting results, because KPV is so effective, a little bit's going to go a very long way. And finding the right dose is the key to achieving your desired outcomes. So using too little, you may not produce any noticeable results. But if you use too much, that can be counterproductive. And so, like with everything that I say in life, there's a lot of trial and error. It's always better to start slow and move your way up because you can always increase. But once you start too high and you start to give yourself problems, you've already created a mess. So here's what I would do and what I recommend. A typical daily dose often ranges from 200 to 500 micrograms a day. So I would recommend starting closer to the 200 range and gradually increase as you assess your response. This allows you to really dial it in for you and you alone because every single person is different and what you need or require or can tolerate is going to likely be different from the next. Now, I want to talk to you before I go here about some other unique properties of KPV. I've talked about the inflammation management, but there's some other things that set it apart in the world of peptides. And these make it a really versatile tool for your body's balance, particularly when it comes to skin and gut health. So unlike other compounds that have broader, less targeted effects, KPV's actions are very, very refined and specific. And it's not just about calming irritation, it's also about creating a healthier environment at a microscopic level. So understanding these additional benefits are going to give you a deeper appreciation of the full scope of how KPV works with your body's natural systems to promote wellness from the inside out. One of the most impressive features about KPV are the antimicrobial effects. It's the ability to act as a gentle antimicrobial agent. Research has shown that KPV can effectively target common pathogens like certain bacteria and fungus, both of which can contribute to skin and gut issues. Now, what's truly remarkable is that it accomplishes this without weakening your immune system at all. Most conventional treatments that are going to fight infection are going to suppress immune function, and that's going to make your body obviously more vulnerable. But KPV works in harmony with your body, so that helps to manage unwanted microbes while also supporting your natural defenses. So this makes it such a huge asset for maintaining healthy microbial balance. It also doesn't cause skin darkening. So if you've done some research, KPV is derived from a hormone called A-MSH, which is known for its role in skin pigmentation. So a common concern with compounds related to A-MSH is whether they will cause skin darkening or unwanted changes in complexion. Now, KPV is unique in this regard. It retains all of its powerful anti-inflammatory properties, but it lacks the specific sequence that's going to stimulate melanin production. So this means that you can explore its therapeutic benefits for your skin without worrying about any cosmetic side effects like hyperpigmentation. So that makes it a really safe and reliable choice for long-term use. Another thing about KPV, we started off with a Wolverine stack that got promoted, which was TB500 and BPC157, which then turned into a glow stack by adding GHKCU copper peptide. But what made it really, really stand out and hit the limits, the maximum extreme, was adding KPV, which made it the Clo stack. KPV adding on to this made it like the four horsemen. And I will argue all day long that KPV is the strongest part of that foursome. Now, they all have synergistic effects, but that is what makes it complete, and that is what makes it stand out. To me, right now, KPV is the king of peptides, but it certainly is going to take over as more and more people understand and experience its effects. So, that being said, stay tuned for plenty more to come. Dylan Gemelli, signing off.